Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to what I'm currently titling something called Untitled Review Show, just because I haven't really come up with a title with it yet. Basically, I'm going to use this as a place to review certain shows that might not fall into the category of the other three review shows I do, because me and my little idiosyncrasies of I have to package certain things in under certain categories. Regardless, I am going to be reviewing the series premiere of Dispatches from Elsewhere. I thought it was a great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in the episode, so let's break it down. God, this was just a terrible intro, but we're moving on along. Jeez. Nevertheless, I like the show immediately kind of being very referential. It seemed like, I was like, the moment we got introduced, I was like, okay, so is this show going to be fourth wall breaking? It seems like to a certain extent it is. I guess in the grand scheme of things, when you, because I looked into it a little bit about, kind of what the show is based on, because apparently it's based on a documentary called The Institute, which was kind of connected. I won't get too much into it, but reading a little bit into it, I didn't read a lot. I read a tiny bit. I was like, okay, so that might play into something. I'm curious to see what the show ends up doing, its approach to everything. But the fact of the matter is that quick introduction of, how the show basically wastes 20 minutes giving you the backstory and stuff. We're going to do it in 2 minutes. And they introduce you to Peter, played by Jason Segel. Because I'm like, yeah, Jason Segel, obviously, from Forgetting Sarah Marshall, playing a character literally called Marshall on How I Met Your Mother for, a long time. So, best things I probably know him from. But regardless, basically he lives just kind of a very boring everyday life, and it's just kind of no excitement, no fulfillment, but it's hey, let's just jump to the day everything changed. I did like the fact is when he was walking past all those flyers and everything, and one was well, I know one was a force field. I can't remember what the other one was. Oh, it was communicating with a dolphin and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, he goes back to his place and it seems like everything's ordered. I thought it was interesting, at one point you see him literally watching SVU. That's actually later on, but I'm just once again, I always get in my head about that. I'm like, are you legally allowed to do that? You have to pay, there has to be licensing stuff you have to pay to be able to do something like that. Is it even worth it at a point? I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe they have a way of skirting around that cost or something. I don't know. I always think it's not interesting. I'm like, that's Ice-T and Christopher Malone. That's freaking SVU. Regardless, I guess later on, because they kind of reference, SVU. I mean, hell, they even use the Law and Order doom doom. I mean, maybe that's royalty free. I mean, you never know with stuff like that. I feel like because that's connected to Law and Order, that you would think that would be something that is maybe they licensed that as well, but I would assume that doom doom from Law and Orders would be when they're switching to the courtroom type of scenery, they use that soundbite later on, and I'm like, once again, I'm getting too caught up in the technical stuff, but essentially, as he before all that, he was walking, and then he sees a guy putting up a poster, and the guy looks at him, and he runs away. He walks over to it. Peter pulls it down, and it's have you seen the flyer was have you called this number if you've seen this man? And it's the guy was literally putting up a flyer about if you've seen me, call this number. It's okay, Peter doesn't really get an answer first, but then they call him back and they know his name is Peter and everything. It's he's yeah, that guy was actually putting up the flyer about himself, and it was yeah, we kind of figured he would be. And I'm like, what does that even mean? So it's oh yeah, the Jejun Institute and everything. It's oh, come on by. And Peter was just kind of oh, I don't know if that's. He's oh wow, that's a lot of numbers you're throwing my way. Because even I'm that's very confusing. All the address and everything, the numbers you're. Do you want to get a pen or something like that? So no, I'm okay. And his therapy session was really interesting too, when he was talking about the fact is his therapist is, and he's just got giving word on word answers oh no, did you do anything? No, go any place different? No, to eat? No. And so she was what do you want to why do you do this? Because for him it's well, because it's such an honest answer, because it's free, because of the benefits of this job, which I've never had medical benefits like this. I'm able to kind of do this, so I figured I'd take the opportunity to kind of give this a try, see what it can do for me. The fact of the matter, he's I love the conversation, even though I feel like you're doing all the heavy lifting, and I feel like I'm not really adding much to it. And I love that him being like, actually, I start thinking about that too much, and then I actually kind of I feel bad because I feel like he starts feeling bad because he feels like he doesn't contribute to the conversation, but also later on he feels like he gets all in his head about like, yeah, if you think I'm boring or something like that, and she doesn't say anything, but I just think that's just interesting. And she's like, Keto, no. He's like, yeah, I'm still talking. It's just like it was just very like, I mean, obviously, therapy. I think a lot of existential stuff can come out in therapy, but I just thought that was interesting. Him breaking it down like that. Like, yeah, I enjoy it, but I feel like I'm boring, and I'm probably boring you with this. That just crossed my mind is like stuff like this because some stuff will make a joke out of it where a therapist is honestly like, honestly, I don't care about people's crap. I'm just doing my job. I pretend like I care, but I don't know. That's what kind of goes through my mind. But nevertheless, then it kind of gets a little deeper. So the fact is that he's like, actually, he kind of doesn't feel anything. So it's almost like he's just going through the motions of like, because he's just kind of like reaching that point where he's like, I guess I'm to that point where I just realized like this is all that life is. And it's like, he feels like there's something that's kind of missing, and it's like, don't you kind of owe it to yourself to kind of find out what it is? So he goes to the Jejun Institute. The guy's like, hey, this is the guy we were talking about, he's here. And that lady shows up out of nowhere, and it's just like, she's just standing there like, oh, this one. I'm like, that's super creepy. Then like he has to follow the instruction, turn right, okay? Turn right, turn right again, and go down the hallway. Okay, what the hell was the point of that? He goes in that room and sits down, and then we get introduced to Octavio, who's the dude at the beginning, which played by Richard E. Grant. I've seen him pop up and stuff recently. I just can't know what. I know I'm not a Star Wars person. I haven't watched any of the Star Wars. I know I want to say he's in the most recent Star Wars movie. Maybe he's been in others. Regardless, I feel like I've seen him in other stuff too. I just can't place it, but nevertheless, he starts getting really existential about like, oh yeah, you're asking like, he's talking to Peter about this whole thing of not talking directly to him. It is kind of like a recording, but it is a whole thing of like, okay, kind of basically like he's running this experiment. He's been doing this thing for the past 40 years to basically prove that in life we're not as disconnected as we think we are, that actually we're all connected, that there is this like oneness, and it's like you want someone to come up to you and grab you and shake you, be like, this isn't your life, that there is actually something more, that you are special. And he's like, this is that. And then, Octavio goes into it being like, this is that moment. You are special. And, Peter's crying and stuff. Like, he's like, what is happening? Because it's speaking volumes to him. Because, like, for him, he just felt like, oh, there's nothing to me. There's nothing special. It's just the way life is. But it's like, oh, my God, this seems exciting. That maybe there's more to me. Maybe there's more to the world. And it's just like, oh, yes, fill out this card. He proceeds to fill out the card, about to fill out the card. But then other notes are like, do not sign it, run. And he proceeds to run. And then just that lady pops up again. She's creepy, kind of stopping him. And he's following the messages to like keep running. Gets a call on his phone. And it's like, okay. It seemed very Matrixy when they're trying to get Neo out of the Matrix the first time. Seems very reminiscent of that. Maybe that's kind of the vibe that they're going for. I just thought that was pretty interesting. And he follows it and ends up, because it's part of this elsewhere. I'm going to keep stumbling on it. Every time I say elsewhere, I'm going to say Elseworld just because the Arrowverse kind of screwed me up. Now, like, I want to say Elseworld rather than Elsewhere now. And I got to correct myself on that every time. But nevertheless, he goes into a shop and he sees Simone and it's like, oh. And she calls him an ass face. He's like, I'm not an ass face. She's like, you're an ass face. He's like, I'm not an ass face. I'm just me. And it's just like, oh, okay. She's like, I mean, oh, you're part of this too. It's like, oh, okay. She's like, yeah, I was just kind of acting. He was like, yeah, you were pretty, he's wiping his face down. He was like, you were pretty convincing with your threatening. But it was kind of this, nice thing. I even love the shop being this thing of kind of like, basically you pay whatever you believe is fair. I'm surprised they didn't actually get anything from it, but I thought that was kind of an interesting sign of like, oh, pay whatever you believe is fair. And it's like, she gives him like a Bluetooth headphone, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen people walk around with this." It's like you could tell Peter's very like awkward and just almost like introverted, just because like he doesn't know how to really communicate with people. But at first, it seems like like we get cuts of him and Simone having fun. For him, it's like, "Oh, I finally saw the world. It seemed brighter." It's almost he's like, I know this is this would possibly sound stupid." So he's like, "Actually, I know it's gonna sound stupid, but at this point, I don't care. I'm gonna say it anyway." It felt like magic was real. And he felt like he saw the world in a different way, and it only lasted a couple of days. And I'm like, oh, so that's right there immediately makes you go like, is there something deeper to like that? Like that's what I mean. It's like it's having fun, but at the same time, it almost grounds it in this thing of like, so maybe like Peter suffers from depression or something like that. Like he has like some depression where it's just kind of like, yeah, he has his highs and his highs, but he has very low lows. So that's what I'm wondering, and maybe this momentary thing kind of gave him a momentary like escape from that depression or whatever, but it kind of eventually went away, and it's but he gets a call later on, and then it gave us the Law and Order sound, and he was like, because it's like, "Oh, you're calling?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm in. Yeah, I'm here." He's excited to kind of be a part of it. Then he's got to follow to a number, he's following like the arrows or so. Like, I don't know if it's these necessary, because it looked like there were arrows actually put inside like the sides of the building, and it seemed like it was falling to a payphone that's not actually. It looks like it's just actually just connected to the wall and not just like an actual phone booth. But the fact is, he answered, and the guy's like, Dance, you mother lover," and he's just actually dancing a little bit. Some people come over across of like a jukebox, not jukebox, just a radio. God, there's a beatbox. Wasn't it? That's the terminology. God, I sound so stupid. But then like they proceed to dance and everything, and then some hairy dude comes up. I'm like, is that supposed to be Bigfoot? Wait, what? What? I didn't know what to make of that. So it's just like, oh, and then he proceeds to dance. I'm like, oh, I love his attempt to kind of like just how weird, stiff, and awkward he is. But yeah. Then follow the next, path, and lo and behold, he meets Simone again, and it's like this slow-mo thing of like, oh, we're meeting again, eyes meet. It's just like, oh, Simone's kind of walking backwards in the slow-mo and everything, and then he kind of breaks the moment by being like, Simone, it's like, all right, it's almost like we're trying to create this beautiful moment of like, oh my God, stars align again, we meet again, and it's just kind of like Peter just kind of cuts through it and just be like, Chum! Like, oh, we're gonna ruin him. Oh, we ruined the moment. Okay, it's like Simone, and she's like, hey, Peter. It's like, hey, they get reunited again, and I think it's the thing of it's like for him, it's like I forgot what the exact word was, but he's got this like I got this like anxious feeling, whatever, but it's kind of good. She's like, that's excitement, and I guess because for him he hasn't really felt that in a long time. But basically, they're listening to this, and basically this is all about some girl missing named Clara, and it's like the whole point is to find her, and Octavio is the bad guy, which is interesting, and the reason why I kept referencing, like, Octavio, like, him being the narrator, but also, like, him being an actual part of the show was, like, the fact is that he was, like, at the beginning, he's like, I've lied to you one time, at the beginning, he was like, I lied to you one time, but I'm a reliable narrator, and then he does that kind of creepy smile, and it's like, okay, so you're the villain kind of narrating this story, so it's like, it's that whole thing of like, okay, so what's real, what's not, and obviously a whole bunch of people are gathered around. I was like, oh, okay, so I thought it was interesting, because I thought it was just going to be our four protagonists dealing with all of this, but it's like, no, apparently there are multiple groups, once again, looking a little bit more into the, what this is all kind of based around a little bit. I'm like, okay, it makes sense what this is kind of representing, but the fact is I thought it was interesting. Obviously they end up meeting Janice, played by Sally Field. I feel like I always pluralize her name. It's Sally Field, not Sal. I don't think it's Sally Fields, it's Sally Field. But I always feel like I add an S at the end of her name. Also, look, first they actually met Fredwick, which we'll get to soon enough, played by Andre 3000, Andre Benjamin. I wonder, does he do the thing like 50 Cent, where it's like Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, Dwayne The Rock Johnson? So is it Andre 3000 Benjamin? I mean, it still fits anyway. I don't know. He's always just been Andre 3000 to me. You know what? The first thing that always comes to my mind is Four Brothers, because I want to say that's the first acting role I ever saw him in. Not saying it was his first. I just know that it was the earliest one I can remember. I actually went to theater to see the movie. I really like that movie. It's kind of like heartwarming, yet also a very sad movie. It has a lot of sad moments. Regardless, I'm going on tangents and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, Frederick is kind of like, actually, I'm gonna stay right here. Can't miss any information. You guys go gather up. But he's like, oh, you don't want to come with us? We'll go. Okay, we'll go fight everyone else. So it seems like everyone ends up meeting up, and it's like because they all got these little paddles, and you have to find the people with the matching paddle colors. And the fact of the matter is, they all become like little groups, and so it's this thing of like, oh, let's find Clara before Octavio does because we have to stop him. Because essentially, it's kind of like this thing of saying like things aren't what they seem to be. That you're kind of caught in this, and the comparison I always make is kind of like what I got from it initially, just based on the original, like just some of the promotion. I thought I saw the original trailer, the full trailer, but maybe I never saw the full trailer. Maybe it's just the promotional commercials and stuff for it. But it seemed like it's kind of like this conspiracy. I've almost got this Truman vibe to it, where it's like not everything is real, which I know is a weird reference to make because I feel like I've seen the Truman Show, but I feel like I don't remember it that way. I remember bits and pieces, so I feel like if I sat down and watched it, I'd be like, oh, I've actually seen the entirety of this movie. So that's why I feel weird referencing it, but it's like the best thing I can compare where it's just kind of like your reality isn't what it seems. So that's what I thought the show was, but then it seems like maybe that is what it is, maybe it isn't, because they actually sit down in a restaurant like, oh, it's actually pretty fun, this this game and everything, which Fred was like, it's not a game. Look at all this information. They're tracking our phones, they're tracking this and that. It's like this is some like CIA, like this is some government, like you put a lot of money behind this. This is like a social experiment, which Simone was like, okay, I'm gonna ask you something, kind of don't take offense to this, but are you crazy? Because in my experience, crazy people don't know that they're crazy. So it's like, because Sally, I wasn't about to call her by her name. Janice feels like, oh, this is something a little fun. I got mixed up in. I can't wait to tell my hubby about it, and stuff like that. And then they're asking Peter what he has to say about it. He's like, no, I like to, just keep my thoughts to myself, and I just want to, gather information, listen what you guys have to say. I forgot what Frederick called him. I think it was like, you're a selfish Buddha. I'm gonna call you SB because you're a selfish Buddha. He said, and it's like, and Peter was like, I prefer you didn't call me that. I also love that was literally a bit about, what is your name anyway? He's like, Fredwick, and she's like, excuse me, Fredwick. He's like, Fredwick. He's like, if you wrote it down, I guess I guarantee you'd probably spell it wrong. She's like, so Fredwick, and then it's like passes on to Janice, Fredwick, then to Peter, Fredwick, and then back to Fredwick, and I'm like, we're just literally sitting around saying Fredwick. I love that. But then the moment Peter actually talks, he's like, yeah, you guys say that, this is some kind of government social experiment. You say that it's kind of like a fun thing. You say it's kind of a game because especially for Simone, it's like, oh, like, we'll get some grand prize at the end of it, like some kind of riches at the end of it. It's like maybe we'll kind of end up on TV or something like that. But Peter's like, what if this is real? And then Frederick starts laughing. And then, and then Peter's like, well, that's why I didn't want to say anything. Because I know what I said. I knew it was going to sound stupid. But you kept telling me to say something. You said, say something. And so it turns into a thing of like, because for Peter, he doesn't want it just to be some game. He's like, oh, what if this is something real? Because for him, it's like, maybe because what he's lived in his life, that it's just kind of like it being just more than just a game, being not just some experience, it just being something that we actually have to do, and Simone ends up walking away, and it's like, oh, I get the feeling I'll meet up with you guys later on. But that in itself, I was thinking like, that's what makes me wonder. It's like, well, is this real? Is this something that is just paid to be some like game or little adventure that they go on? Or does it start off that way, but eventually grows into something real? Or has it always been real? That's the whole point of this journey that we're going to take over the course of the show. But then we kind of go through that situation with Simone at the end. I thought was kind of interesting, where she's walking, and then they kind of like, some people are nearby and they kind of rewind it and show you like an animated version of a guy, because this is all about nonchalance, like some, what was the holy nonchalance is kind of like the word, because like Clara is all like apparently like the one that's going to be the one that had, I don't know, like it's interesting. And I guess it's kind of like, what is that nonchalance? I guess it's just kind of like, as the cartoon was kind of showing, it's just kind of like this unawareness of danger, and I guess like having this natural, almost ignorant bliss to everything around you, just that things kind of happen and you're not really realizing it. You just kind of, I don't know what the word would be, like just casually walking through. I don't know what to kind of make of it. But then like Simone, it's just kind of like if you guys are near me, like she starts running and then she like pepper sprays the dudes in the face, and she's like, you ruined almost like you ruined, like if this is a game, don't touch me or something like that. You ruined everything, and runs away. And it seems like she goes back home. And I was wondering like what that was about. We'll definitely get into it more, but it's just Simone's looking into the mirror, and I think she's thinking about Peter, and it's like, oh, I think for the first time it felt good. Maybe like Peter's the first person she's really gotten close to, for whatever circumstances. But it's just like, I'm wondering if it's what I think it is, but I'll wait till the next episode to kind of explain, because I think each episode is going to be kind of an episode about each one of the characters, kind of focusing more so, maybe taking things from their perspective. Like this episode was mainly from Peter's perspective, but at the end it's like, oh, this is Simone, and it's Octavio snaps his fingers. So I think like the next episode is going to be about Simone, so kind of understanding who she is and what she's potentially getting out of this, because I think we got a better idea of what Peter plans on getting out of this. So I think we'll kind of break down each of the characters and their whole parts to play in this whole situation. But I'm really interested, to kind of find out more about it. Like I said, for now, this is getting labeled as an untitled review because, maybe as the show progresses, maybe it'll present itself as either a crime-centric or a super fantasy type of situation. Because I don't know, like, how deep down the rabbit hole the type of situation goes. Like, like I said, it does seem like there's a bit of a conspiracy angle to it. So technically, I guess it could fall on a crime-centric, but for now, I'll just leave it as this, But that's me kind of getting caught up in semantics and stuff like that, because I'm that type of dude who gets caught up in semantics. But the fact is, I'm really interested to kind of, see where the next episode takes us, to kind of really maybe get a better understanding, like, okay, so where are we going with all of this? Is this just, maybe it is just some game, or maybe there is some realness to it. We'll have to wait and see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good